Hey everyone, it's Zahava. Welcome back to the channel. As you probably guessed by today's video title, we're going to be looking at my TBR list for the next little while. So some of you, if you've been here before, may have seen these titles in older videos, but if you're new here, we're going to be going down an official TBR list of all of the books that I have currently in my possession that I haven't read. And coming up in the next few days, probably by the next vlog, hopefully, we will be able to give you also the a book haul, as well as, updating the TBR list. So without further ado, let's get into the video, and I will give you guys the Goodreads rating of these books on the bottom of the screen. So as some of you may know, my preferred genre of reading has always been sort of the fantasy genre. I have read some fiction books, many of them, and biography, memoir, things like that throughout my entire life. But as of late, and for the last, let's say, decade, a little bit more, my genre of choice has always been fantasy books. And as I've mentioned before on the channel, I've been sort of out of the book loop for quite a few years. And based on some booktube recommendations, I've gone ahead and picked up a copy of Jade City by Fonda Lee, which I am excited to get started with. I've heard really, really good things about it. It seems to be an adult fantasy, which I'm really happy to hear because, and I know I'm going to say something that's going to be a little polarizing for everybody in the audience, but I just don't feel like I can get into YA fantasy and young adult fantasy. I just feel like young adult stuff is so far beyond my scope of interest that you're probably not going to see a lot of that on this channel, because it's something that I struggle with and I tend to stay away from just because I have this huge fear of being bored by the content. I want to read adult fantasy and adult novels, basically things that are just geared towards adults. And while I understand that there's a lot of people out there that do get great enjoyment from reading YA novels or fantasy or just general YA literature, it just doesn't resonate with me. So we're not going to be talking a lot about YA on this channel unless I'm doing like a reading challenge or something like that, which I do have planned for the future. So I will get there. The other thing I wanted to tell you is, oh my God, my brain, it's like jumping around all over the place. Yeah, so there's not going to be much YA. So if you guys have any suggestions for any good adult-oriented fantasy, please feel free to put it in the description below, and I will definitely take charge of your recommendations. The next book that I have picked up is The Pomegranate Gate. It's on my TBR. It's only been about 2 weeks now or 3 weeks that I picked this up at my local Indigo. It is by Ariel Kaplan, and it is also an adult fantasy. And, I have never heard of this author before, but I really liked the premise that was on the back of the book. And I just really like the cover. This was a case of I judged a book by its cover. So definitely when we're doing reading vlogs from now going forward, and once we get to these books that are on the TBR list, I will be updating you on how these things progress. But this is just basically a video to show you this stack of books that are on the waiting list. The next book that I have here is a copy that I picked up on special for $8.99 at a local newsstand. It is The Terminal List by Jack Carr, and it is a thriller. Now, I know that I've spoken about this before on the channel, and I'm not a big reader of mystery, thriller, suspense, and that's usually because if the novelist takes too long to get to the point of why we're reading, they lose my interest. So I'm hoping that this book will not do that, since I hear it's got really good reviews. And I know that they've made this into a series, as you can see right here on Prime Video. So I definitely want to be reading this book before I even take any kind of a look at the series. I do like Chris Pratt as an actor, and I think that I'm going to really enjoy the book and the series. If you've read it, let me know what you think in the comments, but try and keep it spoiler free. The next book on my TBR is The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. And this one has kind of gotten mixed reviews on Book Talk and BookTube, and some people really, really like it. And I have seen other booktubers that really think that it isn't worth the hype. I know nothing more about this book than what is being said on the back of it. and it had been suggested by other booktubers, and it seemed interesting enough to me to try. I understand that Frida McFadden has other books in this series, and I'll determine whether or not I'm going to read those books based on how I feel about this one. So if you've been around for a while, you probably know that I also sell books on eBay, and sometimes I get access to novels that are so overly produced that they really don't have any resale value. And so with those, I've decided to pull out the ones that I thought were interesting and try and read those. So what we're going to look at now are some of those books that I've triaged out of the books that I pick up to resell on eBay. And these are books that I kind of thought I might be interested in reading, so I pulled them out based on nothing but the cover or the little blurb on the back. I have not looked any of these books up on Goodreads yet. I kind of didn't want to spoil it for myself, so these ones are just based on what I thought I would like to read, but nonetheless, I will still put up the Goodreads overall rating for you guys on the screen. I haven't looked them up yet though, because I don't want them to influence what I say in this vlog, okay? So the first one here is called Bondage by Patty Davis. As I understand, it's supposed to be a very spicy book. I don't usually read spice, so I thought I would give this one a try. Pretty sure it has to do with BDSM type topics. I don't know. I'm going to try it out. I will let you guys know what I think of it. The next book that I had pulled out from that particular haul is called The 7 Days of Peter Crumb by Johnny Glynn. And I don't know anything about this book. I've never seen this author before, but I did like the premise of it, so I'm going to read you guys the back. Intelligent, wry, and seriously twisted, Peter Crumb is a man who suffers two personalities, only one of which is capable of remorse. His life has been derailed by a single devastating act of violence, and now in what he intends to be his last week on Earth, he's determined to leave his mark upon humanity, randomly, unjustly, with infinite attention to detail. Allowing the morning's newspaper headlines to loosely dictate his actions, Crumb sets out on a week-long descent into hell, determined to drag as many as possible into the darkness along with him. Gritty, dazzling, and profoundly disturbing, Johnny Glynn's The 7 Days of Peter Crumb is an extraordinary debut that portrays the deterioration of a severely splintered soul. So I thought that this book sounded really interesting. It seems to be a pretty short read, something like, I don't know, maybe 230 pages or something like that. It's really small. So given that I didn't pay that much for it because it came in that big book haul, I think I paid only 20 cents for this. I figure I'll put it on the to be read list. If I DNF it, I DNF it. I will let you guys know how this goes. If you've read it before, let me know in the comments, but please try and keep it spoiler free because I would like to read this book, give you guys my take on it. The next book that I have here is a standalone novel from Cynthia Eden called Immortal Danger. Now, I believe that this one could be possibly a romantasy, paranormal romance. Yeah, so that's exactly what it is. Now, this is not a genre that is typically in my bailiwick. I do read a lot of fantasy, but romance, I'm going to be honest with you guys, not a super huge fan. Not a huge fan of romance. I kind of find it a little cheesy, but I'm maybe prejudging or misjudging the genre, so feel free to leave me comments to that effect if you know of any romance novels that I should be reading that have really powerful writing. I don't know anything about Cynthia Eden. I know that only that she writes a lot of novels, a lot of series, but this one happens to be one of her only standalone novels, which is why I picked it out of the pile, because I don't know if I'm ready to commit to an entire series of something right now. It's a pretty small book. It is about 280 pages or so. So I think I could probably make my way through it if the writing isn't shallow or weak. So a lot of my problem and why I have challenge with the romance genre is because I find that, I don't know, I'm not a big fan of chick lit, first of all. I don't know if I can really get into it, but I didn't exactly really know that romantasy was a genre because I've always been reading high fantasy, adult fantasy, and they would have subplots or even smaller subplots of romance sometimes. So I'm going to give this one a try, but I'm not going to lie to you, I'm a little skeptical about it. So if you've read this one, let me know in the comments. Is this a good author? Is it a good book? Let me know what you think. I'm going to try it anyway. I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt, but I reserve my right to DNF if I don't jive with it. The next one I have here is a novel by Sandra Brown called Unspeakable. Again, this is another author that I am unfamiliar with. I did put this book aside because the back of the book really spoke to me. It says Carl Herbold, that's a hard name to say. I don't love that, is a cold-blooded psychopath. I'm sorry if your name is Carl. I don't like the name Carl. It's hard to say. If you just said Carl somebody, that's fine. But like Carl Herbold, like who writes that? Anyway, sorry if your name is Carl, is a cold-blooded psychopath who has just escaped the penitentiary where he was serving a life sentence. Bent on revenge, he's going back to where he began, Blue County, Texas. Born deaf, lately widowed, Anna Corbett fights to keep the ranch that is her son's birthright. Unaware that she's at the center of Herbold's horrific scheme. I don't like the name Herbold. Herbold. I can't say it. It sounds... Ugh. It's a good thing I'm not going to be reading this book out loud because that sounds horrible. And that her world of self-imposed isolation is about to explode. Drifter Jack Sawyer arrives at Anna's ranch asking for work, hoping to protect the innocent woman and her son from Herbold's rage. But Sawyer can't outrun the secrets that stalk him, or the day of reckoning awaiting them all. So, I don't know. The comments on the back of this book say that it's super suspenseful. Again, mystery, suspense, thriller, not a genre that I normally gravitate towards, so I'm kind of curious to see if this book is any good. Again, you guys, I don't know who this author is. I've never read anything by Sandra Brown before. I don't generally read mystery, thriller, suspense novels, so I don't know if this is any good. I could have picked up the McDonald's of literature here, or it could be like a prime rib. I really don't know. So I'm going to try it and I'll let you guys know what I think. And as always, if you have any comments, you can leave them down below. The next book that I have is Rush by Kim Wozencraft. So this is a novel that is based on a loose retelling of a real life experience that Kim lived through when she was undercover trying to suss out a drug ring with her partner, and they ended up getting addicted to the drugs and, you know, just trying to navigate that whole situation. This book has also been made into a movie, which I've seen, but I thought it might be interesting to pick up this book and read it. It's written as a novel, not as a memoir, so I'm curious to see what it's like. I'm leaving myself the freedom to DNF it if I need to. The next book on my list is The Kite Runner. Now, this one is not something that I normally would have picked up, even though it has been on the bestseller list for quite some time. The only reason I reserved it from my big book haul, I did like pull it out of one of the boxes because it doesn't really have much in the way of resale value, and I figured for 20 cents I may as well keep it and try and read it. The only reason that I kept it aside is because it's in brand new to like new condition. I know it's got some really great reviews, but again, it's not something that I think I would have gravitated towards were it presented to me in a bookstore. So I'm going to give it a try. I don't know if I'm going to like it though. I will let you guys know what I think about this one as well. Girls' Night Out is going to be another mystery suspense thriller try that I'm going to go on. It is about 3 girls that are spending a night out in Mexico, and then one of them goes missing and they have to figure out what happened to her because they are drunk and they don't remember what happened that night. This is just the little blurb that I got off the back of the book. Again, I am unfamiliar with these authors and I've never read this book before. So because it cost me 20 cents and came in my big book haul, I kept this one aside as well and thought that I would give it a try. The Snowman by Jo Nesbo is the next book up on my TBR. Again, it's mystery suspense thriller. I'm giving myself a very wide berth to explore this genre, and the reason is mostly because I am determined to find a good character study of people. I just don't know if it's possible in the mystery thriller suspense genre. It turns out that I'm more of a character reader than I thought I was. I used to think that I was very plot driven, and I'm not. And as I get older and as I read more, I tend to gravitate more towards books that have really deep characters, really good points of view from the characters. And I don't exactly know if that's something that I can find in genres like mystery, suspense, thriller, and or romance. This is why I tend to stay away from those genres, because I find the writing in general very superficial, and I'm afraid that the books are going to disappoint me. I don't know if I can just read popcorn novels. I don't know if my brain can wrap around something that I believe is shallow. And I know that my opinions are going to be very polarizing on the subject, but I want to care about the characters in the novel. So I don't know if any of these books are going to elicit that in me or not, but I'm trying them because I'm trying to expand into other genres, and I'm trying to read books outside of my comfort zone. And I just feel like this book looked to be in really, really good shape, and I'm going to try it out. And as I've said, I have not looked up any of these books on Goodreads yet, so I don't know what people are saying about them. I will have the star rating for you anyway at the bottom of the screen, but I'm still going to give this one a chance. I feel like I have maybe seen this book, The Lies We Told by Camilla Way, on Book Talk or on BookTube before. Something about the title tells me that I've crossed this title in one of the videos that I've watched at some point. I don't know anything about it. I don't know if it's going to be good. I picked it out of my pile of books, and I know that it's going to be another mystery suspense. I think what I was doing was I was trying to pull out a lot of books that were going to be mystery suspense thriller in the hopes that I would find somebody that, a book that I liked or an author that I would stick with, and then know what to look for moving forward. So I'm also going to try this one. Don't know anything about it, but it is on the TBR. Here is another shorter book called I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid. And it's, like I said, I picked this one up. It says international bestseller. There's a reader's guide at the back of it right here with questions for discussion. And the book itself is about 200 pages or so. So I'm thinking it could be like a quicker read. I see that it is a series on Netflix, but unfortunately, I no longer subscribe to Netflix because of their increasing prices. And, I'm just not going to support that. I'm not going to support that. The increasing prices and the restrictions on how many people can share your account. They lost me when they did that. So kudos to you, Netflix. I am not going to watch your program, but I am going to read this book. The next thing I have here is a book called Pilgrim, which is from a Canadian writer by the name of Timothy Finley. And I want to read you guys the back of it because even though the book isn't in super great condition, it sounds like it's going to be quite an interesting read. Ageless, sexless, deathless, timeless, Pilgrim, the man who has lived throughout human history, has been admitted in April 1912 to the Bergolzi Psychiatric Clinic in Zurich, Switzerland, having failed once again to commit suicide. So begins a momentous battle between young, self-professed mystical scientist of the mind and Pilgrim, whose own unconscious is etched with the sufferings of the infinite lives he has inhabited. Is Pilgrim mad, or is he condemned to live forever? Witness to the terrible tragedy and beauty of the human condition. As analyst struggles to understand patient, we witness the conflicts between life and death, mind and soul, and reality and memory. Now, I fear in reading this again for a second time that this book might get a little bit heavy. So even though I'm definitely interested in reading it, and it hasn't really been on the TBR list for too long, maybe 5 or 6 weeks, maybe a little bit longer than that, but it did sound interesting. I just don't know if I'm going to be able to stick with it because it sounds like it might be a bit of heavy reading for me. And I think it's going to kind of be influenced a lot by my mood. And it is a little over 530 pages, including the epilogue. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it through. I might find it boring. I may have to DNF it, but for now, we're going to keep it on the TBR. This book here is called The Fasting Girl. Now, this one I did look up on Goodreads. It is a non-fiction. It had like a middling sort of star rating in the 3.5 to, but definitely under 4. I'll put it across the screen for you, but basically it's a true Victorian medical mystery, The Fasting Girl. In 1865, Molly Fancher of Brooklyn, New York, began suffering unexplained symptoms, including blindness, paralysis, and trances. 13 years later, she became an international sensation, fought over by scientists and philosophers, called a psychological miracle, and fraud. Igniting her fame was one remarkable question. How had Molly lived for 6 months on a few teaspoons of milk and a small banana, and for the next 12 years on nothing at all? So this is Michelle Stacy, author of Consumed. And so this is right now the only nonfiction book that I have on my TBR. And I'm really thinking that I would like to try and read it for November, because as I understand, though I'm kind of new to BookTube, as I understand, November is for nonfiction, and that makes sense. It is alliterative, nonfiction November. It makes sense. So I'm going to try and read this. I picked it up for $3.75 at a local thrift store, so I'm hoping that this will be an interesting read. I may like it, even if a lot of people don't. The Goodreads rating, again, not so terrific, but maybe people were expecting a different type of writing style. That's what I gathered throughout, from most of the comments. So I will let you guys know also what I think about this. And then lastly, I have Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone, a novel by Benjamin Stevenson. Don't know anything about this one, but I really like the back of it, so I'm going to read it to you real quickly. It says, this one, I don't know if this is a joke or not, but it says Absolutely Not to Be Missed by Karen Slaughter. I don't know if that's like a real author or not, but I think it's a funny name. Anyway, you guys can let me know. I didn't look it up. But it says, everyone in my family has killed someone. Some of us, the high achievers, have killed more than once. High achievers, right? I'm not trying to be dramatic, but it is the truth. Some of us are good and others are bad, and some just unfortunate. Have I killed someone? Yes, I have. Who was it? Let's get started. Everyone in my family has killed someone. So that's what it looks like on the back. This is the front cover. I just thought it was kind of an interesting premise. I hope it's going to be a good read. I also wanted to mention, I don't know why the pages are kind of like this. Do you ever get books like that where the pages are not, they kind of stick out a little bit like that? And I don't know why this is happening. I see a lot of books like that, and I don't know, is that like a printing defect? Is that something that's wrong with the book? I don't know, but in any case, this book also cost me $3.75 at the local thrift store. I thought it looked like a really fun read. So yeah, I'm gonna have this on the TBR list for the next little while. I don't know which books I'm going to read next. Let me know in the comments, you guys, which books you have read, if any, that are on my list, which ones you think I should start with, which ones you think I should jettison. I also want to mention that there were 2 books that I had here, which, I did have on the TBR list, but I kind of decided after going through this list a second time that I lost interest in these ones, so I'm just going to go right ahead and unhaul them. The reasons being that I'm not really sold on whatever's on the back of the book of this one. Not really sure why. I read the backs again and I'm not feeling them. So these are 2 books that I'm going to be unhauling right away, or potentially putting into one of the blind date with the books that I sell. So I don't know, but maybe not this one because I would have to clean it up. Anyway, so that is going to bring us to the end of today's video, guys. I hope that you guys enjoyed seeing my current TBR. Next up for you guys, I'm going to have a book haul, because I'm just waiting for another package to come in where I think I have like 7 books. I have 3 out of a possible 10 that I want to show you. So we're going to be doing a book haul video as soon as all of those packages get in. And then I will show you what other books have been recommended to me by BookTube, and we'll see which ones of those I picked up. So thank you so much for coming by and spending your time with me today and watching this video. If you like this kind of content, please remember to give the video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more reviews with me. I should have a first book review, book vlog for you guys in a little while. I did finish Remarkably Bright Creatures. If you guys want to see a sneak peek of my review of it, you can go ahead and click on the link to my Goodreads, which is going to be down below in the description. And I have kind of a little bit of a review of that book posted up for everyone to see. But I do want to get more into it when I do my October reading vlog wrap up, which is going to be coming up in the next couple of videos. So thank you guys again. Please subscribe if you would like to see the October reading vlog wrap up, which will be coming up soon. And I will see you guys in the next one. Ciao for now.